Coming up, Disney's Rock and Roller Coaster at Disney's Hollywood Studios. Welcome to the SeeWDW Near and Far podcast, where we explore perspectives of the Walt Disney World Resort from 10 to 1,000 miles away. I am Mike the Far in this equation.
And I'm John the Near.
All right, today we are going to talk about a Rock and Roller Coaster. We're going to talk about the history of the ride and the behind the scenes and the ride itself. So this has kind of been 2 weeks in the making. Last week I kind of dropped the ball because I wasn't properly prepared for it. So of course it was my fault, right, John? And I know you were prepared, and then you lost all your slides because I left you hanging there, and so here we are. Maybe we can get it together this week.
I found even better ones, so that's okay.
Well, that's good. That is good. All right, let's get into it. Rock and Roller Coaster opened in Disney Hollywood Studios in 1999. The ride is a launched coaster based on the music of Aerosmith, and it features the band's songs throughout the experience. So that is a brief overview. John, one of my favorite rides at Hollywood Studios. I don't know. I mean, it's been down the last couple months, right? It just about a month ago, it came back out of maintenance, right? There was a lot of speculation around about they were maybe going to change it, but they didn't. It's still Aerosmith, right?
Yeah. I guess it could be a month. I was going to say it feels like it was only a week or two, and they kind of quietly just opened it back up. So. I think they did that because they didn't want, they didn't make any changes or whatever. If they would have made changes, they would have had an awkward press event, and they would have invited out, media and influencers to ride it first. And, they would have done a lot of weird, cringy things around it. So, the typical Disney stuff.
Yeah, there's been some conversation about, changing this from Aerosmith into maybe some kind of Muppets roller coaster. I'm sort of doubting that that's going to happen because of the place in the park that it is. And
they don't do anything with the Muppets by the Muppets, so why on earth would they do that? The Muppets doesn't sell them a lot of merchandise, and it doesn't expand their
IP,
their social agenda either. It does nothing for them, so there's no chance. That would be an absolute miracle to have the Muppets.
I mean, I love the way. Yeah, I love the way Rock and Roller Coaster. I love everything about the ride as it currently sits. It is maybe a little dated, but that's okay. It's kind of from an era that I'm very familiar with, and I'm down with it staying the same. But if they want to change it to a Muppets coaster, I'm down with that too. I think that would be creative. I think that would be kind of cool.
I was going to say, on this particular one, this is one where we differ a little bit. I've never been a huge fan of Rock and Roller Coaster. I always liked it, but for example, when my daughter was too young to go on it, I would be absolutely fine saying I'll be the one to stay off. I'm good. And it's not because I don't like roller coasters or anything. I just I don't know. I just never cared for it all that much. And again, I don't know 100% why. It seems like the kind of thing I would like, an original ride, and and not a Disney IP ride and stuff. So, I mean, in that stuff, I do like it. I appreciate it. but it's never been, compared to like the Tower of Terror. I almost always go to the Tower of Terror. Like I rarely, and I didn't even realize, like, how I go to the parks a lot by myself, like on a Sunday or something. I completely forget that this has single rider. I'm like,
Yeah.
I need to, try that sometime. But
I think the thing is what I like about it so much, it just has like, it's so different in that park, right? So different from anything else. And I just like the approach. I kind of like going down there into that area and emerging underneath that little archway, and you see, like you have on the screen, you see the guitar and the piano, and you see all the things going on down there. And I like the concept. I like going into to the studio. Like I was really into rock and roll growing up, and that whole bygone scene of Hollywood rock and roll, which is gone now, was something that used to appeal to me. I used to think that was really cool. So, the whole studio thing, you're kind of the going into a seedy alleyway and stuff, getting into a limo, going to the concert. I just thought that was cool. I like that.
I do appreciate all that stuff too. But I think one of the things that made me not appreciate it was I grew up not going to Disney World, basically. And so I grew up with my local park, which was like Dorney Park. I went to Great Adventure. And for the most part, the only things that a lot of them had, like fast roller coasters, was like, that's pretty much the bread and butter of it. So I guess when I went to Disney, I wasn't looking for a launch coaster and loops and all that. It's like when I would ride this, I had the same disoriented feeling that I would have after riding the coasters from my local parks. And I was like, that's not why I'm here. Like I think that's kind of what made me not like it as much. And again, I don't hate it. If they rethemed it like Marvel or something, I'd be very disappointed. I heard they did that in France, and every time I post something, the people in France are so sad and disappointed with the version that they changed it to out there. They made it like an Iron Man ride or something, and I guess not a very good one, because the French people seem to really hate it. They basically said they ruined the ride. So I've never ridden it, so I don't know, but just a thought. I don't at this point in time, I honestly do not trust Disney to retheme it right now. They would make whatever the dumbest decision that they could make. That's what they would do. They'd be like, how can we ruin this? They'd be like,
in this era, I'm not sure, I mean, again, let's acknowledge their success with the Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. I think that's successful. I think they did a good job, but that was not a retheme, right? I mean, it was just taking a gutted building and using part of it.
Yeah, that was, that's all new. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I would trust them necessarily at this point either to pull it off. Their creativity has been really suspect lately. So
yeah, I think all the good creative people are at Epic Universe right now. So
it's very possible.
Disney management thinks they know the right way to do everything, and I don't think they do. So there's a lot of people at the top of Disney that need to retire, and I'm not for the most part, I'm not one of those people who think young people will do it better. But in this case, the old people are trying weirdly to appease young people, and it's just an awkward, weird thing that doesn't seem to be working in their movies, TVs, anything. So they just somebody needs a little reset there,
Yeah, I'm not even so sure that this appeasement of a younger generation is even working amongst younger generations. Yeah, the people with the big mouse and the big keyboards, it certainly maybe appeases the people that are at the front, but the people behind them, like the majority of the people, I mean, I don't know. They're seeing some dips in parks, and they're not doing very well at the box office with anything lately. So, I think that should tell them something. And yes, I think it's time for the executive suites to have a major turnaround here.
Yeah, I think bringing Bob Iger back was one of the dumbest decisions they could have made too.
Yeah.
I'm fine with getting rid of Chapek, whatever, but bring Bob Iger back.
Yeah, they
like
really needed some new blood there of some type.
Yeah,
Not tomorrow either.
they're all part of the problem. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, you said about the talent. We talked a little bit about that, and wait until we talk about who was actually involved in creating this attraction, because there's some major talent behind this thing. And I was really surprised in my research. I didn't realize some of these particular individuals were involved, let alone still involved with the company whenever this thing was created. So we'll get into that then, and might surprise a couple people. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about the history. And by the way, I am dealing with allergies still, so if I cough at some point in this podcast, I apologize. I guarantee it'll happen at some point along the way. But all right, into the history. Rock and Roller Coaster was first announced in 1996 as a new coaster that would be built at Disney's MGM Studios, now Hollywood Studios, in Florida. The ride was originally conceived as a collaboration between Disney and the Rolling Stones, but the Stones ultimately declined to participate. Aerosmith was eventually signed on as the ride's musical partner, and the project was renamed Rock and Roller Coaster starring Aerosmith. Did you know, John, that was originally designed for the Rolling Stones?
I think I heard that before, but yeah, to me it's very similar.
Yeah, similar.
I'm not a huge Aerosmith or Rolling Stones fan, but I guess given the choice, though, I like Aerosmith better. I guess.
I think I do too, although I don't know how the Stone stuff would necessarily fit in an aggressive roller coaster, but I do like some Rolling Stone stuff. I don't know, but Aerosmith seems to be a better partner here, in my opinion. So, but all right, the original concept again was supposed to the original construction started in 1997 and was completed in 1999. The ride cost an estimated $100 million to build, making it one of the most expensive attractions ever built at a Disney theme park. Rock and Roller Coaster opened to the public on July 29th, 1999. The opening ceremony was attended by Aerosmith members Steven Tyler, Joe Perry, Brad Whitford, Tom Hamilton, and Joey Kramer, basically the members of the band at the time. And the band performed a concert for guests before the ride opened. The ride was an instant success, and it quickly became one of the most popular attractions at Disney's Hollywood Studios. John, remarkably enough, for some reason, and I'm not really sure why, with this StreamYard thing that we use, I can hear your videos now today. Yeah. I don't know what the deal is with that, but when it starts up, like it comes over the software.
Yeah, and I hit the mute, but.
Well, I know it doesn't. It's so bizarre, folks. This software we use, sometimes it has like the volume. We can hear the volume from each other, and sometimes we can't when it comes to videos and stuff. So it's just strange. We haven't really figured out what the magic elixir is for that. So occasionally there may be something I don't know.
It could benefit though if we could figure out the right volume.
Right. I agree. Like a
You could
low.
actually hear the beginning scene of when they're talking about the stretched limo and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I'm good with that. It just becomes as a surprise sometimes because we're not expecting it.
Yeah,
But,
it kind of bursts out. Yeah,
mhm.
yeah, and no matter how many times I mute it, the default coming up is going to be all on in full volume again, and
Yeah, it's
it's
just weird. I don't know what's going on with that. We'll have to figure that out at some point. But all right, let's talk a little bit about behind the scenes of Rock and Roller Coaster. The coaster itself was a B&M, which is they're from Switzerland. The ride's launch system is powered by a linear synchronous motor, or it is powered by linear synchronous motors, LSMs, which are a type of electric motor that uses a linear motion instead of a rotational motor. LSMs are more efficient than traditional motors and they allow for faster launch. And they also allow for a smoother ride. LSMs are often behind the ride systems in a lot of the roller coasters that people will tell you are smooth, and fast, particularly launching coasters. So
yeah. I could say that this is a smoother coaster. Like I don't. I find it amazing that it goes upside down and yet there's no restrictions on bringing bags or anything. And again, I think because it goes fast enough in the loop that gravity or the G force is stronger than the gravity, and it just nothing's going to fall out. So it's not one of those.
yeah, I agree. It just like you said, it's so fast when it goes around those inversions and loops and stuff that nothing's typically falling out. I mean, there's exceptions, I'm sure, but yeah, like you said, no restrictions. So, Rock and Roller Coaster was built on a 6.5 acre site in Disney's Hollywood Studios. The ride's track is 4,000 feet long and reaches a height of 137 feet. The ride also features 3 inversions, a corkscrew, a zero-G roll, and a barrel roll. And that's why I love this ride, John. All those combinations of the coaster features in a dark roller coaster ride, and the little neons that you see along the highway signs and stuff. I love that. I love that about this ride. It's unique, I guess I would say, in terms of rides. At least it was at that time. All right, so who was involved in creating this attraction? Well, that was a who's who of Imagineers. Rick Fitcher, who was the project director, had 30 years experience. He previously worked on Test Track, Soarin', and Expedition Everest. And he's one that maybe you didn't necessarily hear about, but he was involved in way more than those particular attractions. But here comes the more famous Imagineers. Bob Gurr was the chief engineer. He is a legendary Imagineer from the Walt Disney era, as in Walt Disney the Man era. Walt personally hired Bob Gurr. He had over 50 years experience. He previously worked on Pirates of the Caribbean, Haunted Mansion, Space Mountain, basically everything at Disneyland for the most part, including the People Mover, the original People Mover, anything transportation related. Bob Gurr worked on, because Bob Gurr was a motion and car guy. So Bob Gurr is still alive today. He actually does tours out at Disneyland when he gets a chance. He works with like a couple different YouTubers, like the guys behind Random Land and some other guys, to put together different tours around the entire Disney Walt Disney era. So Bob Gurr, man, legendary. I can't believe he was involved in this. I didn't think he was still with the company then.
Yeah, I didn't know that either, but the '90s is a long time ago now. So.
Yeah, it is. It's like time escapes you, but Bob Gurr, man, that's the guy you'd want involved in a roller coaster. He helped design space or helped create Space Mountain, and it's just like a lot of other attractions. Believe it or not, not just Bob Gurr as a legend. Tony Baxter. Tony Baxter was also involved in this. He was the creative lead. He had over 40 years experience at the time. He was behind Big Thunder Mountain, Splash Mountain, and California Adventure. Are we allowed to say Splash Mountain? Okay. All right. He used to be, he helped create a ride, a flume ride that used to be at the Disney parks. How about that? It's just a flume ride, right? So, and also legendary Imagineer Kevin Rafferty was the show producer with 20 years experience at the time. He worked on Twilight Zone, Tower of Terror, The Seas with Nemo and Friends, and Star Tours. So, like I said, a who's who of Imagineers. Bob Gurr, Tony Baxter, Kevin Rafferty. These guys were the last generation of Imagineers that people really knew. And they came after that original generation of Imagineers, other than Bob Gurr, who was pretty much in that original group towards the end.
He must have been a kid back then, though, too. So
what's that?
He was must have been very young. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was very much so. They basically hired him as just a gearhead originally, and he came in and just interweaved in all these attractions. I mean, what an amazing guy, Bob Gurr. I love that guy. But yeah, I mean, that's the kind of talent that was behind this attraction. You probably won't see too many attractions with that kind of grouping of talent behind it ever at Disney, especially going forward. So, all right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the features of Rock and Roller Coaster. The coaster itself reaches a top speed of 57 miles per hour. The ride's launch system uses the LSM system, as we mentioned earlier. The story behind LSMs really is that they are more efficient than traditional motors, and they allow for a faster launch. I think we can get beyond that because we kind of talked about that already, pretty much everything. Again, a lot of redundancy in my research, but
I did want to point out something wrong now. In what you said earlier. And I thought it seemed a little bit off, so I double checked. And I don't know why the amount of the weird little bits of false information that gets put in when you're researching nowadays is absolutely ridiculous. Like, I almost feel like they do it on purpose, because I noticed that I try to make a caption for something and they always add something wrong into it if you try to use like AI stuff. And the 137 feet for the height, I thought to myself, that seems oddly high. Like that seems like that building, it's not going to work. And I looked it up, and according to multiple places all over Google, it says 79 feet.
Interesting. Okay.
So again, and yet it tells you several times. Google told you in a different format, they gave you the wrong height. And it's like, I just find that really weird.
Yeah, it literally says in my research, it said a height of 137 feet. I thought that was a little tall too. And I was thinking maybe they dug a trench into the under, the bottom of and that's why what I was thinking, but it doesn't seem like it goes that high. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't feel like that. So, but
yeah. So, and again, this is on coaster websites, and just Google in general tells me 79 feet.
I
And
would
then
trust the Google, or I would trust the coaster websites over
yeah,
just the generic research sources that
coast,
I used. So,
according to coasterpedia.net,
mhm.
they said the height is 80 feet, the drop is 78 feet. So, that's about right. Top speed fit 57. But again, it's so weird. I really do feel like they put incorrect information
I,
on purpose as like markers in things. You know what
hmm
I mean? Like it's like if you're writing a paper, someone's gonna know. They're gonna be like,
Yeah,
there's the marker.
that's
So,
well, very cool. I'm glad that you caught that, John, because that will keep me from issuing an apology and correction next week. That's cool. So thank you very much.
it's just funny though that between you try to get your stuff from different places and get a good balance of information and
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
always slipping in something ridiculous. So I don't know.
Yeah, there's probably like if somebody did a paper on the Rock and Roller Coaster somewhere, in college, there's totally a professor that's probably not even fact checking that. You know what I mean? Like they don't even. It's like not even a. So that information has probably been copied and recopied and posted. So who knows how many generations people thought that that is actually a height of 137 feet. But no, I appreciate you digging that out. That didn't even. I thought it was a little high, but it didn't set any alarm bells off. So cool, awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just thinking that when I look at that building again, I'm like, how's that fit in there? Even 80 feet's kind of high too, but
Yeah,
137 just seemed like
just
it
doesn't
wasn't
seem like
going to
that
work.
building would clear that, right? So and you are actually in the construction business, so your BS meter was going off right away. So very very cool. All right. The experience itself, the rock and roller coaster, is themed and the queue to begin to appear like a recording studio. The queue line takes guests through the studio before they board the coaster. The ride features the music of Aerosmith throughout the experience. Rock and Roller Coaster is a thrilling ride experience. The ride is fast and it features a number of high-speed turns and drops. Ride is also smooth and does not feel rough or bumpy like many conventional roller coasters. The I don't know the From a personal experience, John, riding Rock and Roller Coaster the very first time, I was amazed at how smooth it was. And the other part of it is because it was indoors and everything was air conditioned, the way the air hits your face, like my eyes were always teared up whenever I
Yeah,
got off
I
of this.
noticed that on that one too. And again, it's a 57-mile-an-hour ride. I guess that's a lot, but I did notice that my eyes tend to water a lot more on this. It's like I would ride like Everest or something, and I wouldn't feel the same. And you know what I think it is though? In other coasters at Disney, there's the start and stop, start and stop. This is just once it blasts off, you don't stop. So it's like a minute and a half, 2 minutes of nonstop air in your face. So again, I didn't even notice it at Tron though, really.
I didn't either, to tell you the truth. I didn't remember that either. So maybe it's because it partially goes indoors and outdoors. I mean, maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. About the rock and roller coaster, like the music fits so well with like the different stages that you're going through the ride. It really does match the excitement of the ride itself. They've put some of their more, I guess you could say, motion friendly music with the attraction itself. I just think it fits perfectly with it. It's hard for me to imagine the Rolling Stones being able to have, for them to have the music works in such a way. And John, in a way, it sort of reminds me of those rides. You ever ride one of those rides that goes around in a circle and then it takes you backwards and it's inside
Mhm.
like a room, and it has lights and stuff, and like if the outdoor ones, they typically call them Himalayas or something like that, but the indoor ones, they have different names for them. Knoebels has one of those types of rides where it takes you on a track around a circle and stuff. It sort of reminds you of something like that, the way the music and the lights are and stuff. So, um,
Yeah, speaking of the music though too, one of the songs that I remember getting many times on there, and now I wonder if it reopened and they said there's no real changes, everything's the same.
I know what's coming.
I wonder if they got rid of that "Dude Looks Like a Lady"
I
song
wonder
because
too.
again, in today's environment, especially at Disney, I don't think that would fly very well anymore. So
That's a
again,
good point.
I wonder. I wonder. But I did want to mention too at this point right here in the video, which is when it stops at the end, it stops in that lane.
Mhm.
I have to tell you, one of the reasons that this is not among my favorite rides, even though it's original, exciting, unique, like uh, it tends to stop there sometimes. And I don't know for what, like maybe people are having trouble unloading or something like that. I've been in this position though before for only a few minutes, but minutes in the dark with the harness holding you down and not moving. Like I get very anxious and claustrophobic when I'm on a roller coaster and I'm not going anywhere. Like it really bothers me. And it's happened to me right there many times. And again, I think that's part of the reason that my feeling of anxiety and dread and claustrophobic and I would remember that, and I'd be like, I volunteer to stay off with my daughter. I'm like, I'm good. I don't want to deal with that again. I don't like the feeling of it. And again, I was never stuck any significant amount of time, but even a couple of minutes. Their ride's only like a minute long or something. And when you sit in this part here, and nothing happens and nothing happens and nothing happens, like that would really bother me to see the end is right there and you can't go. So I think I'm getting better with that in my old age, but it really did bother me when I was younger, especially. Like I think I could relax more now. But so again, even in that video you can see eventually I turned off the thing. It was just sitting there. So I don't
Mhm.
know, it happens a lot.
Wonder if it was because there were guests with disabilities or something like that.
It could be, but they don't allow you to see what's happening because you're unloaded around the corner. So you're sitting there and it's
Yeah.
just like, and yeah, again, it's not a big deal for almost everybody. It's fine. But for some reason, for me, that would just bother me to no end. The claustrophobic feeling I would get in that was just too much. So,
Plus, you're sitting at the end of the ride in the dark, right? And it's not like, say, Seven Dwarfs. Like in Seven Dwarfs, you would be sitting there by the house, the dwarves' house, and kind of hearing that music and seeing stuff go on,
I
right?
think the shoulder harness is part of it though too.
Mm,
Imagine it's almost like something holding you down, like even Velocicoaster. I think I would be much better. It's just on my legs, like that comes over and just pushes on your legs, and it feels like you're free at the top. I'm like, I don't know. I just don't like to be held in and then not go anywhere. It's like I'm all right being held in, but and I remember the ride at SeaWorld was like that too. I forget what it's called, but it's the ride that brings you horizontal.
I see. Yeah.
And when you're held up horizontal, I'm fine when we're going, but when it goes up, every second it's not moving. I feel like something's squeezing me and just holding me there, and I'm like, I really want to get out. And again, that I forget the name of that ride. I always think it's Manta, but I don't think it is. Mako, Manta, one of
Mako,
them.
maybe. Yeah.
But it's the one based on a Stingray, I think, because it's
Mm.
horizontal. But great ride. But man, that really bothers me every second it doesn't move, and that makes me with that ride too. It's like my daughter would be like, "Let's ride that again." I'd be like, once is enough for me." I'm like,
Yeah.
I love it, but I don't like the not moving, holding up. So,
Yeah.
because
Yeah, I get that.
after we talked earlier, I was trying to figure out, this sounds like the kind of ride I would absolutely love. Like, why isn't it among my favorites? I think that's the big reason why. But again, it's so well done. It's so well themed. The record studio, Aerosmith is there, the band, the ride is great. It's like I just I wish they would upgrade it with not shoulder harness, like use
Hmm.
the new harnesses like Velocicoaster over the head, hold on. But I
Yeah.
would like that better and try to be a little more efficient because again, it's happened to me so many times where I'm just sitting there in that hallway waiting, and yeah, I don't makes me avoid it kind of. So
Yeah, I get that. If you're claustrophobic, I could see where that, even mildly so, I could see where that would be a problem for sure. All right, let's talk just a little bit about the story and the on-ride experience itself to close this out. Story goes, you're standing in line for the attraction. As you wait, you see a video of Aerosmith's members performing in a studio, and that video is designed to look like the studio itself. So while we call it a video, it actually kind of does. The way the setup is sort of look like they're in a studio there. The band is excited to be at Disney and they can't wait to perform for you. After a short wait, you're finally called to board the ride. You enter a large chamber in the next room that is decorated like a back alley. Now, before we get to that back alley, let me just stress that the recording studio that you're in, there's instruments, microphones, it looks like a studio, so it definitely pulls off that studio look. And even though that is a video there, it really does. I mean, especially back in the day, do you remember when this thing was young, John? It actually looked realistic. Like that was it's a little dated at this point. I think the video isn't as convincing as it used to be, but I mean, I just remember walking in there and being wowed by the fact that it looked like they were actually there.
it's some real Disney magic there. So it was
Yeah.
very well done.
Yep. All right. So again, in the next room, it's like you are in a back alley getting ready to board the pink limousine. Wouldn't you call it pink? Is it pink?
It depends on the lighting. Pink, purple, blue.
That's why I asked, because I sort of think they look pink, but sometimes my perspective on pink can be like.
I was going to say, here's a picture. It looks kind of purple.
So it probably depends on the lighting, right?
Depending on the lighting, and honestly, I think it's just reflecting. I think that this is the real color, just reflecting.
It could be
very reflective gray.
Yeah.
Right here you can see.
Yeah, it is. Okay.
Very reflective gray, but they changed the color with the lighting. Like again, you can see my pictures. It looks like two different trains here. It's like there's a purple lighting and there's blue lighting, and I'm like, same.
That's crazy, because I always thought it was pink, but you're right. Now I remember like seeing the car itself is gray, but it just with the lighting they change. It looks pink a lot of times, so or purple or blue or whatever.
I did want to mention though too. One of the things that I like. And it just so happens it's right at the part where I'm sitting there feeling claustrophobic and wanting to get out. If you look towards the exit, you'll see the lights shining, and they do hidden Mickey
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the light shining. Like if you look, you
yep,
can see they hidden Mickey lights go up, and they do that a lot at the end. So again, if I in the front, you can see it very well. This is shot from the front seat. So the front
yeah.
seat was a little better for me, less claustrophobic feeling. But as you're in the back further, you can kind of see lights ahead, but it's not as good. So
Yeah, very cool. I forgot about those hidden Mickeys at the end, but you're right. That is cool. I always loved that too.
yeah, here you can see them flashing by a little bit.
Yeah, yeah,
They're
that
not
is.
always there. They just there's a
Yeah,
there's
almost like balloons or bubbles,
yeah.
in the way they project them there. But all right, you take your seat in one of the coaster cars, and the ride begins. The car starts to move forward, and you are treated to a relaxing countdown as you get ready to launch. Not really relaxing. It's like a rock show countdown, and
Yeah, he's kind of yelling.
he's yelling down. And as soon as he gets to that launch point, man, that car takes off. It launches out of the alley, and you are on your way to the streets of Los Angeles. You fly through the air at speeds of up to 57 miles per hour. Ride takes you on a wild journey through the streets of LA, and you go through hairpin turns, loop-de-loops, and corkscrews. Along the way, you're treated to the soundtrack of Aerosmith's greatest hits. Music is loud and the ride is intense. You feel like you are a part of the band, and you can't help but sing along, depending on who you are, I guess. After a few minutes, the ride comes to an end. You're dropped off at the concert venue, as we were talking about here. And where you get to see Aerosmith perform live, as the story goes. But unfortunately, as you walk through the doors, it's not a band venue. It's not Aerosmith. It's a gift shop. So, of course, that's what Disney does at the end of the ride. You don't get to see Aerosmith. You get to see a gift shop.
It was a pretty cool gift shop.
It is. It is a great gift shop.
It has a good feel to it.
It is.
I always liked the gift shop, and when my daughter was younger, they had a penny machine in there, and lots of. It was at least it had unique merchandise, because I don't remember ever seeing Aerosmith merchandise anywhere except in that gift shop, which goes a long way
really
with
great.
me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I appreciate unique stuff, and you don't get a lot of that at Disney anymore. So
I agree totally. You're not going to get too many. You're not going to see Aerosmith swag anywhere outside of a festival at this point, if you're lucky enough to catch them, which I don't even know if they play anymore. But I mean, you'll get them on some generic online shop, but here you can actually see it in that gift shop, and it always has a little bit of a Disney tilt to it, which is awesome. So yeah, you're right, John. Very unique and awesome gift shop. But yeah, that about does it for the main segments of Rock and Roller Coaster. Overall, in my opinion, one of my favorite rides at Disney Hollywood Studios. Always a long line. Well, typically a long line there. If you're lucky enough to get in that line for under half an hour wait, I definitely jump into it. I just, it's almost like a break from all the other stuff that you expect to see at a Disney park. Just again, I love the Aerosmith theming. I love the music because I grew up with it. But if they changed it to Muppets or something cool like that, I'd be okay with it. Not really like you said, the Marvel stuff.
If they couldn't change it to some modern IP, then I don't think they'd spend the money right now.
I think you're right.
unless they could do it in such a way that they think makes them look good in some way. So, and I was gonna say, as of right now, it's only like 10 o'clock in the morning, but it has a 45-minute wait for roller coaster, 25 for Tower of Terror. So it's it gets
It's
packed pretty
still
quick.
popular. Yeah, still very popular. The thing about that is this early in the morning and the crowd level this weekend is probably not that high throughout Disney World. But the fact that that's already nearing an hour wait, it's getting there, tells you how popular the ride still is. I
Yeah.
remember during the COVID years, John, um, waiting the line was crazy, like the way they had it structured. You had to wait out in these ropes out in front of the building. Do you remember that? Did you ride that particular ride during that time?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure I did. They had all the rides had a weird setup to them, but
I
yeah,
just
because of the 6 foot distancing,
yeah,
it
yeah.
required a lot of space. So.
Yeah, I remember getting in that line and waiting, thinking, "Man, this is going to take forever," and it didn't take that long actually, but probably took about 45 minutes. But it just shows 1999 this ride opened. It is still that popular that it's getting crowds like that. You can't say that about all Disney attractions, but this particular one stands the test of time so far.
Yeah, and I was going to say too, regardless of what I think, I had nieces. This is like 20 years ago now. That when they were young, Hollywood Studios or MGM or Hollywood was their favorite park because of rides like this, and this would be their top ride. And again, this is like I think that this was Disney's answer to like teenager thrill rides, this and that. So again, for them, the Tower of Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster made the park, top park. So it definitely did its job. And again, it's a great ride. Don't listen to me. I my the fact that I don't love it is you know due to anxiety reasons at the end here. So that's the only thing I can think of. So besides
Yeah.
that, it's a good ride. So
I think at the time when it was created, it was their answer to some of the things that Universal was doing, right? And, Universal was attracting a lot of the teenage crowds. And, as a result, Disney wanted to stay relevant in that space. So they gave them this section of the park basically with this and the Tower of Terror. They became relevant amongst that crowd again. They always try and be a reason for everyone to go to the park, and that's really what I think Rock and Roller Coaster and the Tower of Terror had to do with.
I
So
am surprised that it's still that popular, though, based on the fact that it's an extreme coaster.
mhm.
Like a lot of times people back away from, it goes upside down, it has a launch and all that. Like the Disney crowd kind of would, I would think, would shy away from that. But for this one, they really didn't. But I can tell you, though, that Slinky Dog Dash is like a 60-minute wait right now. This one
Yeah,
has it beat.
yeah,
Always has it beat. But again, that's because
it's a family
you can
coaster.
see it, and yeah, and little kids can go on it. So I've been
Yeah.
on like with my neighbors, and you know, it was one of their kids' first real coasters, and man, she was so excited and stuff. So I think that's a big thing, and it's not that extreme, but it's more intense than it looks. It has the little hill and the
Sure.
stuff. You know what I mean? Like for a
Yeah.
little kid, in comparison, like Goofy's Barnstormer
Hmm.
is not like it's 100 times better than that one. So
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. My mother-in-law, when she was in her 70s, actually went on Rock and Roller Coaster when we took her down there, and she loved it. I mean, she was a little dizzy at the end, because it was a little fast for her, but she had a great time. We have pictures of her on the ride with us, and again, it's not a family coaster. It is fast, it is aggressive, but most people find it fun, I think, other than, like John said, there's some issues with maybe some claustrophobia at the end and, loading and unloading. But I think, overall, one of my favorite rides at Walt Disney World, I actually haven't been on it for, I'd say about a year and a half, believe it or not, because the last time we were down, I believe it was shut down for maintenance. Previous times, the lines were just long. So, and usually when my wife and I go, she won't get on it because of the speed. She just refused to get on it. But
yeah, that's what I mean. For reasons like that, it surprises me how it doesn't kind of get to the point where it's not that difficult to get on, but it's still difficult. But again, that does make me think that is the kind of thing that Disney would want to change, something popular that's still working. That's the time to change it.
That's right.
Meanwhile, the Wonders of Life Pavilion, let's just see how that empty building turns out. Let's let
and
it
the
ride.
Stitch building and, empty Stitch building.
And imagination, give it another 20, 30 years. It's fine.
And let's not even go to Disneyland because they have plenty of those too, apparently. So
there's a 60-minute wait it's still a consistent high wait at Rock and Roller Coaster. It might be time for a retheme.
Or just dump it out, just empty it out and leave it sit.
Yeah, it'd be a nice empty building with a guitar on it.
They could put like what's that show back there? There's some kind of Cars show right next door to that, right?
Lightning McQueen, something or other.
We just found how it's going to be themed next.
Hey, that's a good idea. Yeah, make it a Cars themed, huh? That actually might work. I don't know. It's but again, you'd be pushing it to little kids that can't ride it because it's too extreme.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah,
I think that's probably part of the reason why the theming has stayed. Aerosmith is really, and again, they may find a more modern act someday, to partner with for this thing, but rock and roll really isn't what it used to be. I mean, what modern rock and roll band can be milquetoast enough for Disney to plug in as a partner on a ride like this? I don't think there is one. So, all the music currently is pretty extreme. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe the Jonas Brothers.
Yeah, that's the problem. I don't know what they would choose to switch it to. But my issue is it's going to get very awkward someday if Steven Tyler is no longer alive. That's going to be like, oh, look, he's...
yeah, and it's coming, right?
I like that idea. It's like, I have no idea. I'm sure he's healthy. I don't know his age or anything, but he's got to be very old. And eventually everybody goes, and I'm like, what's going to happen at that time? I'm sure the ride will be very packed for a little while, but still weird. Just weird.
Certainly some of the merchandise will fly off the shelf, right?
Yeah, the eBay resellers will line up.
Boy, we sure will. All right, John, where can they find you online?
You can find me at SeeWDW on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and YouTube, and See.UO on Instagram and Facebook.
All right, and you can find me at The Giant Rat, THEE Giant Rat, on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, and on Twitter. And that should do it for this one. We will see you on the next one.